Hello my hojos, and welcome back to the series on YouTube that destroys snowflakes with facts and logic, making the shonen jump to shoujo. That's right. If you've ever watched this series before, just know that you've already been annihilated by my superior intelligence and 5'5" intimidating aura. You only consume shoujo and josei now, and it's ruining your entire life. That's the Colleen guarantee. We are back for the fourth installment in my series, making the shonen jump to shoujo. For anyone who is finding my videos for the first time, this is a series where I take popular shonen or seinen manga and recommend shoujo and josei that are similar. The whole point of this series is to get people to read shoujo and josei manga and destigmatizing it in the community as just romance. There's a wide range of characters, genres, and universes for you to step into in these demographics of manga. As always, I want to reiterate that these are not meant to be one-to-one comparisons. I am in no way saying that the manga I'm about to recommend are the exact same. Some manga may just be similar in their tone of writing. Others may just be similar because I think that the vibes are the same. These series are not meant to be compared against each other, nor should they be. I just do this to help shonen and seinen fans have a jumping off point that may help them find something in the feminine medium that they would enjoy. So they may not always be perfect comparisons by your standards, but hey, I'm trying my best here. The last disclaimer that I'll be giving is that all of these manga will be available in English, either physically or digitally. I do this to make sure that everything will be easily accessible for old and new fans alike. What that means is any series that is incomplete, out of print, or unlicensed will not be in this recommendations list. This does put me at a disadvantage because so many shoujo and josei that I would love to recommend aren't licensed, but that's just how we're gonna do this for now. For those of you who skipped the intro, you better not complain about anything I already said in the comments. Anyone who does gets a pin of shame. With all that out of the way now, let's go ahead and just dive right in. These are your nominees for making the shonen jump to shoujo. If you liked Demon Slayer, you might like Natsume's Book of Friends. I always like starting these recommendations off with a series that I'm very passionate about, and today that heavy crown goes to Natsume's Book of Friends, an ongoing supernatural slice of life series with 28 volumes out in English right now. This is an incredibly popular series in Japan, however, it's got much more of a niche audience in America, which is unfortunate because I feel like this is a really incredible series. The manga follows a boy named Natsume who has had the power to see yokai ever since he was little. This power often leads him to being shunned by those around him, whether it's because they think he's a liar or because they think he's creepy. The yokai that he was able to see would even bully him as well. Due to his power, Natsume was passed around between random family members ever since his parents passed away, and eventually he ended up in the Fujiwara household. They live in an extremely rural part of Japan, which also happens to be where Natsume's deceased grandmother Reiko is from. One day when Natsume is running away from a yokai, he comes across a shrine where another yokai named Madara is sealed. By accident, Natsume breaks the seal, only to find a cat-like demon that he nicknames Nyanko-sensei. Nyanko mistakes Natsume for his grandmother Reiko and tells him that she used to terrorize the yokai in this town, challenging them in all kinds of fights and keeping their name when she wins in her Book of Friends. Anyone who owns this book is able to control all the yokai inside it by calling their names. Obviously, all the yokai in the book would like their names back, and since Natsume now owns it, they're coming out for revenge. Not just that, but other yokai would also like the book to be the most powerful yokai among them. To protect himself from harm, Natsume ends up striking a deal with Nyanko-sensei. If he can keep him safe until he dies of natural causes, Nyanko gets the Book of Friends for himself. From then on, the two must deal with all kinds of yokai on top of the humans that Natsume must hide his abilities from. I've always felt pretty strongly that any fan of Demon Slayer would also like Natsume's. Unless I guess you only like Demon Slayer for the action scenes. Even then though, Natsume at least has a little bit of action going on every chapter, although it's not with sword fights. The reason I think these two series are very similar is because of the main characters and their themes on humanity. humanity. Both Tanjiro and Natsume are very kind-hearted characters that give a lot of thought to the demons that they fight. Even if they're getting their asses beat the entire time, they still send them off respectfully by the end. They don't see the yokai as nameless beings that they can just hack and slash through. They're given time for the audience to develop an attachment to in some way, making these two's empathy be the main driving force of both of their series. Now, story and genre-wise, these two series are vastly different from each other. So if you're one of those rare heartless people who hate Tanjiro and only like Demon Slayer because of the cool action scenes, then I think I've already lost you. Natsume's is much more of a calming slice of life, yashike kind of series that tugs at your heartstrings and just has a little sprinkle of fighting. Although Natsume's preferred method of fights is just kind of punching demons in the nose and then running away. But hey, whatever gets the job done. Natsume's Book of Friends is a must-read series. It has an incredible amount of heart and love poured into it. Every chapter makes you feel more and more care for Natsume, as well as the yokai that inhabit his world. The manga currently has 28 volumes out by Shoujo Beat right now, but if you're not really looking to get committed to a long-running series yet, you can always check out the anime too. There are currently 6 seasons and a movie out with a 7th season on the way. That's a lot of Natsumes for you to catch up on. Oh, deal. If you liked JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you might like X 1999. Oh. We have the manga matchup of all time. For those that get it, get it. And for those that don't, you will. JoJo's and Clamp go together like gasoline and matches. While Araki may have never collabed with the mangaka quartet, the Clamp girlies are nothing but familiar with Bizarre Adventures. X 1999, or simply X now, is a supernatural action manga series with 18 volumes. The story is set in Japan in the year 1999. A young boy named Kamui has just returned to Tokyo after the passing of his mother, with her final wish for him to change his fate. What his fate actually entails is still unknown to him. That is until he meets up with his former childhood friends, Kotori and Fuma. He finds out that the end of the world is fast approaching and only he holds the decision of life and death in his hands. Kamui is forced to choose between two factions: the 7 Seals, who can protect the Earth from perishing, or the 7 Harbingers, who have the power to destroy it. What seems like an easy decision grows more difficult as Kamui starts to see the darker underbelly of society, the betrayal, deceit, and corruption of humans. Only his bonds with his 2 childhood friends makes him waver on the fate of humanity. However, it turns out that Fuma had been told on his father's deathbed that he is Kamui's twin star. Whatever decision Kamui comes to, Fuma must fill the spot as his opposite. That means if Kamui sides with the 7 Seals, then he must be his enemy to bring calamity, or vice versa. Thus, the 2 boys must grapple with their destinies, as their choices will change the world entirely. So, for those who don't know, Clamp is pretty infamous for having made a lot of JoJo's doujin before becoming very big on the manga scene. The most popular of which is probably JoJo's Bizarre Married Life. I really don't think that there's too much similar between JoJo's and X outside of the genre that they're in, but if I'm going to do a JoJo's comparison, I can't not recommend some Clamp goodness. There is a lot of action in X though. While it is a more melodramatic series, the fights are dynamic and over the top. Just what a fan of JoJo's would want. The beautiful artistry of Clamp also really elevates the extravagant nature of each duel. Each character has their own power that they use, so dare I say, it's like a stand. Some can wield fire, others can harness the wind, others can turn into dogs, and one girl can even pull a sword out of her hand. This is probably one of Clamp's most high-intensity, violent, and intricate works out in English. The only drawback for a lot of people is going to be that it's been on indefinite hiatus and there's no news of a return. I hope that won't deter you from checking the series out though, because it is one of my favorite works from Clamp, which is saying something since I grew up loving Cardcaptors. If you're a bit hesitant on collecting the series though, I can understand. So if you need an alternative, there is always the anime that is a stellar adaptation. It's available on Crunchyroll and has 24 episodes in total. X is also kind of like a sequel to another series by Clamp called Tokyo Babylon, which we're going to be getting in English soon. Anyway, you can buy X either physically or digitally in its omnibus format through Viz. This manga is just incredible, show-stopping, gorgeous, and gory from start to hiatus. And if you're a fan of JoJo's, do yourself a favor and check out X. If you liked Toilet-Bound Hanako-kun, you might like The Illustrated Guide to Monster Girls. This next manga only has one volume out in English right now, but as soon as I saw the art when it was officially licensed, I knew I would have to make this recommendation someday. The Illustrated Guide to Monster Girls is a very funny horror comedy series that will have 4 volumes out in total. I read the first volume the other day, and it was a really fun read with some surprisingly gruesome imagery. If you're even a little bit queasy to violence, maybe skip this one and go on to the next recommendation. It's a bit of an episodic manga that follows 7 girls who attend a school for monsters. Here, they learn to scare the pants off of humans through their practical applications and of course some history lessons too. The first character we meet, who is kind of our main character, is Ichika, who is a jiangshi. She's a happy-go-lucky monster girl that sucks at anything that isn't a physical fight, constantly trying to skip out on doing her homework and bypassing any hard labor to take the easy way out. Ichika's ineptitude has landed her in the infamous Class C, the worst students at monster school who are taught by the strict teacher D-sensei. He's not a headless horseman, but a headless bunny man, as he wears bunny heads to disguise the fact that there is nothing above his shoulders. His form of punishment on his students is very harsh too. Beheadings, hangings, not letting them eat for a whole week, you name it. At any normal school, he would be in jail already. I hope you knew that. Like, yeah, duh, of course he would be. The Class Z monster girls have a lot of work cut out for them at this school. Not only does their own teacher kill them at any chance he can get, but the upper class teachers aren't too fond of them either. Each day has new hijinks and challenges to help these monster girls become the best and worst monsters they can be. Obviously, where I'm drawing the comparison between Hanako and Monster Girls is the setting and genre they're both in. Hanako is much more story-driven than Monster Girls is. However, if you enjoy the lighthearted horror vibes of Hanako, then I think this is the exact series that you would be looking for. It takes the Monster of the Week format and turns it into the Monsters Hanging Out of the Week. The slapstick gore comedy of Monster Girls is really funny and definitely comes off more silly than it does scary. Even when there's a full page of Ichika with her head cut off, you know that she can come back from the dead anyway, so you can really just have a good laugh at it. It kind of takes the edge off of the gore fest that this series can be at times. I mention this part mostly just because I myself am not very good with body horror or gore, so if anyone's like me and might be a little iffy on that, you would probably still enjoy this series. I would highly recommend Illustrated Guide to Monster Girls for anyone who is a fan of Hanako or just really any sort of horror settings. From the first volume, it's just a very fun series that has a lot of different demons, yokai, monsters from different folktales. Like I already said, this only has 1 volume out right now, and there will be 3 more on the way from Yen Press. If you're looking for a shorter series to check out, then I would really recommend Illustrated Guide to Monster Girls for a fun little romp into the monster realm. And the best place for you to do that is with today's sponsor, Walt's Comic Shop. Looking for English language manga in the EU? Then Walt's Comic Shop is what you need. They have thousands of manga currently in stock with an inventory that's growing daily. Walt's offers low shipping prices for any EU country with bulletproof packaging and speedy customer support. You can enter the code Colleen's Manga Rex at checkout for free shipping on your first order of €40. Get series like Illustrated Guide to Monster Girls and more at at waltzcomicshop.com, your #1 source for English language manga in the EU. Now, let's check out that next recommendation. If you liked Blue Period, you might like Blank Canvas. Depressed art kids, come get your next meal. There's not only one story about a struggling kid in art school, but 2 whole stories about struggling kids in art school. Twice the relatability while you yourself struggle in art school. Blank Canvas is an autobiographical josei manga by the author Akiko Higashimura, who is the creator of Princess Jellyfish. The series is a heartfelt look back at her life and a love letter to her mentor growing up. The story begins with a young Akiko in high school. She's got big dreams to one day make a splash as a successful shoujo mangaka. She's got her entire life planned out from start to finish, becoming the youngest artist to debut in Ribbon magazine, and eventually marrying the actor that will play the male lead in the live-action adaptation of her series. However, Akiko's head is a little bit bigger than where her skill level is at. To remedy this, her friend invites her to an unadvertised art class in the middle of nowhere in her town. While apprehensive at first, some people have heard of the teacher that runs these classes, and Akiko ends up going, only to be met with a cranky old man named Hidaka who immediately breaks her ego in half, saying that all her work sucks and making her return back to the basics of art. He makes Akiko, as well as others in this class, go through rigorous training that would even make J.K. Simmons wince. Akiko soon comes to realize the importance of these classes and where her own pride had blinded her. She begins to take these classes more seriously and using them to help her get ready for art college admissions. Over the course of a year, she grows to truly appreciate her mentor and really look up to him, although she's always been too scared to tell him that she wants to go to art school to become a manga artist. Again, I feel like it's pretty obvious why I'm recommending Blank Canvas for Blue Period. Both manga draw inspiration from the struggles of being an artist, going to art school, and just the world of art. Where Blue Period talks about art in the more technical sense, Blank Canvas definitely focuses more on the feelings and the characters, showing off the connection between Akiko and her teacher while also giving us insight into her life up until this point. One of my favorite things about Blank Canvas, though, is that it dives into shoujo and josei manga culture of that time. There's references to a lot of lesser-known shoujosei artists in magazines outside of Japan, like Akemi Matsume and the magazine Bouquet. There's also a lot of visual references to 70s shoujo manga, like the blank white eyes, the sparkles, and roses. It's very clear how much love Higashimura has for the manga that she was consuming when she was a kid. This manga series is incredibly good, and I would highly recommend it for anyone who has made art or is making art. Since it's an autobiography, it's clearly going to be a personal story, but Higashimura really connects you to herself as well as her teacher. Akiko Higashimura is pretty popular here in America, but I feel like Blank Canvas is most likely her lesser known work, even though it's my favorite. It's an introspective look into one's life and the regrets that you have along the way. The series is already completed with 5 volumes in total out from 7 Seas. If you're a fan of Blue Period or just series about art, then Blank Canvas is one that you have to check out. If you liked Your Lie in April, you might like Nodame Cantabile. For those of you who cried through Your Lie in April, let me help you dry those tears by giving you a slightly similar story that's much more lighthearted. The only tears you'll be shedding this time is when you laugh at the absolute absurdity of characters and situations. Nodame Cantabile is a completed 25-volume rom-com series that also has a 2-season anime adaptation. Although the anime is less readily available than the manga is at this point, I don't know if it's on any streaming platforms. The series is about a self-important college boy named Chiaki who grew up loving music. He's been a gifted pianist and violinist ever since he was a boy, and even got to learn about music from a famous conductor due to his family's connections. After his parents divorced, though, Chiaki was forced to go back to Japan with his mother, where he's felt stifled in music ever since. His fear of flying prevents him from going anywhere else, though, and he feels he's too good for Japanese music schools to actually put in any effort. After getting kicked out of one of the piano teacher's class at his school, Chiaki spends the night getting drunk. He ends up in front of the door of a girl's apartment who helps him out and takes him inside. It turns out that she's an eccentric pianist who also attends the same school that he does, Megumi Noda, or Nodame. Unlike Chiaki, Nodame is a free spirit when it comes to music. She doesn't even follow sheet music and listens to it all by ear, going against everything Chiaki stands for as a musician himself. It just so happens that these two are neighbors in the same apartment building. So even though Chiaki is put off by Nodame, he can't seem to shake her no matter how hard he tries, especially since she has fallen in love with him almost immediately. Although the two may seem like polar opposites, they also bring out the best in each other at the same time. They push the other to try new things, become better people, and face their fears. Even outside of the music aspect, I find that there is quite a bit similar between Your Lie in April and Nodame, specifically in the character archetypes. Chiaki, like Arima, is a prodigy who has isolated himself in some way, although in Chiaki's case, it's for much less of a heavy reason. The guy is just stuck up and thinks he's better than other people. What he really needs is a kick in the butt to show him a new side of things. That kick coming from a girl who's a little different and quirky. Much like Kaori, Nodame is the one to show the male lead a more free-spirited way of living. She helps make Chiaki less arrogant and helps him grow as a person. However, Nodame's growth doesn't start and end with Chiaki. She too begins to take music more seriously because of Chiaki and learns new skills in her own regard. Nodame may be a manic pixie dream girl, but she's also a person with her own goals too. I'm sure any fan of Your Lie in April would also enjoy Nodame You don't know how many times I've been avoiding saying cantabile, so I didn't have to say it more than once. You would like Nodame Cantabile. There really is a lot similar between these two manga. The author themselves said that they had to take Nodame into account when they were drafting a premise for the series so they could differentiate it. I feel like the inspiration for Your Lie was most likely from Nodame though, since a lot of the characters are very similar. There's really only slight differences in the musical aspect, the genre, and the premise. Nodame Cantabile is unfortunately only available digitally through Kodansha. The original physical run was never completed by Del Rey, and that company was eventually absorbed into Kodansha. There are a few ways that you can read it. First of all, you could do the traditional Kindle e-reader way. If you don't have one of those, there's always the K-Manga app, which I'm not very fond of still. The last way that you could do it though would be getting a Azuki subscription where you could read most of the series for pretty cheap. Whatever you decide to do, I highly recommend this manga. All right, and that brings us to the end of the 4th installment of Making the Shonen Jump to Shoujo. This round of recommendations was a little shorter than usual, but I figured doing 5 recommendations instead of 6 won't burn me out on giving you guys more manga as fast. Plus, it gives you guys a chance to read some of the stuff I've already recommended instead of just sitting and watching these videos, nodding your head, and then going to catch up on something that I recommended in the 1st installment. I hope there was a series in this batch that maybe piqued your interest or even just introduced you to something new. If you guys have any shonen or seinen series that you would like me to recommend a similar shoujo or josei to, go ahead and leave those down in the comments below. And that about wraps up this video. As always, thank you my hojos for watching. Welcome to any new hojos. Read Chihaya Furu. And I'll see you guys in the next video.